a.m. Or whatever. But Emmanuel Macron.
And he's a little unshaven in the latest photo that I saw
He's
from
looking,
him.
how do you say, scruffy. Where? And
it's kind of a mix between Zuckerberg and Zelensky, though.
Yeah,
I don't know if he pulls it off.
But he's trying to go war room,
right.
Which Zelensky, how to say that? That's kind of the part that's annoying about this is Macron goes out absolutely dressed to the nines, always the blue suit, he's shaven, the whole thing. He's that guy.
But Macron, in this war, he's been far more Chamberlain than Churchill. He was the one going, Russia's not going to invade at all. I just met with Putin.
I know.
Oh, look at this document I have signed. It's peace in our time.
He's Sheriff Behan in Tombstone. I just talked to the Clantons and the Cowboys. There's not going to be a fight, guys. Call it. That's
we
him.
good.
So now he is wearing the hoodie and because he's the commander in chief of the French military, so it's a military the French army paratrooper hoodie, which is that just wear a Puma hoodie. Don't do that. But so anyway, he's stealing Zelensky's look, and as if Zelensky has a choice. That's the annoying part, is that Zelensky wishes he was in a gilded palace, the Élysée Palace in Paris, having a delicious array of meats and cheeses.
That's right. His unshaven face and bags under his eyes and camouflage T-shirt is not a fashion choice.
Yeah, his capital's being, how do you say? Bombed. Yeah, but so anyway, I don't. They're talking about Biden going downrange, going to Europe next week. If he dons a hoodie, here's the thing.
It's coming.
Because no one around him is original. They're going to see what Macron... by the way, the president of France gets to approve photos of him that are released. So just like the president of the United States or his press people. So Macron is sitting at a desk. It's a very busy desk, and he is speaking on the speaker phone, the phone of the speaker. Where? And he's wearing the hoodie.
Oui.
And he's a oui, Metamucil. And he's got the hood. I hate this. He has the hoodie rolled up to the elbows. And
that's a varsity move.
And it's like wearing, shorts over your sweats. Just get to high school already. But here's what's happening today. The White House press office are looking at these Macron pictures, and they're saying, you know what? All the Western leaders have to look like they're manning up. You've got the prime ministers of Estonia, Poland, President Poland, and the Czech Republic going physically to Kyiv today. Talk about owning the role. If they wear a hoodie and they don't shave, at least they're in Kyiv. Macron is safely ensconced in the. They don't even hide it. It's called a palace. It's Élysée Palace, not the mauve house or the blonde house or the White House. No, it's the palace. But so anyway, somebody in D.C. is going to tell either the president or his vice president to do a war room photo. They ginned those up for Obama. They ginned them up for Clinton. Always. You had to have the war room photo. There they are in the war room, and they're in some basement skiff at the White House.
Oh, that's right.
Whatever.
The most famous one from the Obama administration was during the bin Laden raid, right, where Hillary's covering her mouth and everybody's looking very solemnly at the TV screen. I think Bush had a few of those kind of photos during the Iraq War. Was there one for Trump?
I don't recall. Because Trump didn't, short of golfing togs, Trump didn't dress down.
He bombed a terrorist, though, a prominent terrorist at one point, but I don't remember any photo opportunities from that.
When they killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in Syria, Trump was like, "Call me when he's dead." He
text me.
Yeah, that's sort of the deal. The difference was that. Trump didn't want to sit there and see a live feed. He didn't want to sit there and dictate, where each helicopter landed. He didn't care about the live feed of killing an old diabetic man and shooting him in the head, like Obama did. He was probably out golfing. You don't have to be there second guessing the D-boys when they land on Baghdadi's compound.
Who are the D-boys? Do you have to censor yourself?
Okay, these chaps.
Oh, okay. I got it.
They're chaps from
just needed some clarification.
Fayetteville, North Carolina region. But yeah, you don't sit there on infrared and say, "Hey, send in the K9." Watch it. He's going in the cave. So I mean, many people in the military decision-making process give Trump credit for just saying, "Look, here's the end state. Make it happen. Backfill the planning, but I want that guy dead and the head of ISIS dead, and just tell me when it's done, and I'll play golf with his noggin." Speaking of morons, the Seattle guy that was arrested last May at SeaTac because he wanted to, join ISIS and stuff, he did plead guilty. And this is sort of the difference between the United States and Canada, the UK, and the rest of Europe, is that in America, intent is a crime. If you walk into a bank with a gun, a bag marked ill-begotten gains, a gun, did I say that? A bag, a note, give me all your money, whatever. You don't have to actually carry through with the bank robbery for that to be, an attempted bank robbery. In America, you go online, you make statements. I want to join ISIS. I'm going to join ISIS. You communicate with people who you think are ISIS recruiters. Then you buy a one-way ticket through Amsterdam to Cairo. Yes, they arrest you at the gate because of intent. And as the mayor, please tell me you've seen Dirty Harry.
I know the quote.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, how did you establish intent? Well, when I see a man at the gate with a one-way ticket to Cairo and all these online statements that he wants to join ISIS, I don't think he's out collecting for the Red Cross, to paraphrase Detective Inspector Callahan.
You could ask yourself the question, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
So meanwhile, in Canada, in the UK, they've had this problem where they'll identify people as radicals and they will give a firm, loud knock on the door and take your passport. And like in the case of one guy from Vancouver, BC, he just borrowed his brother's. He traveled to Turkey and Syria on his brother's passport to join ISIS. And when the Canadians were like, well, how'd that happen? Whoa, he had a brother? So anyway, in this country, yeah, you do what this guy did, what Elvin Williams did. So 21, he'll turn 41 in prison. All right, back next hour, the latest out of Ukraine. And homicides spiking in Tacoma, AM 770.
Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
My mom loves those applause breaks.
I want to know the truth.
You keep digging, you're going to dig your own grave.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
I don't get it.
This is the Bryan Suits Show.
I am here in Poland.
She's still there?
Thank you. And Mrs. Vice President, this is actually, we're back in D.C. now. So.
Ukraine is a country in Europe.
Hey, AM 770 KTTH, Bryan Suits here. How did Maskless Monday go? Also, probably the least reported on story today came out last night from the Washington Post. The headline, these schools did less to contain COVID. Their students did better. Well, it's only been 2 years. It's time the journalists came out of their hole and saw their shadow. All right, back in a second. AM 770 KTTH. AM 770 KTTH. Bryan Suits here. 3 NATO leaders from Estonia, presidents and prime ministers from Estonia, Poland, and the Czech Republic are traveling by land to Kyiv to meet with Volodymyr Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, who, by the way, at 7:30, he's speaking to the Canadian Parliament, and this is on the eve of him speaking to remotely speaking to Congress tomorrow by big screen or whatever they're going to do it, and so anyway, we'll get a preview, but he'll probably continue calling for some sort of enforcement of a no-fly zone or something, or at least give me some frickin' MiGs and, the whole thing. So picked up the kid at 2, and I predicted because Kid had said that, well, even if they don't require a mask, I'm still going to wear it as a chin diaper. And by the time I picked her up, it wasn't on.
Love it.
Yeah. It days a week. But meanwhile, the country's largest school systems, like New York City, California, so it was only, I will do them with her because just in the way the kids were walking around and health issues. So listen to this. This is Washington Post. This is the Bezos Post. Yet thousands of school districts, typically small ones in conservative-leaning counties, yay people, but boo bad people. That's what I say because I'm smart. Back in a second with Know It All right after this, AM 770 KTTH. Let's get you to work with our right-way traffic.
I want it all, and I want it now.
Know It All.
AM 770 KTTH. Here is your night owl, your Tuesday morning, everything you need to know about stuff and junk. And we'll start. Wait, is there a number one?
First, know this.
First thing.
You want him to say, what should we have him recut it to say?
No. I think we should. That should be part of the intro.
I'll do it here live. First thing.
So in Ukraine today, there are scant Russian gains, more shot down Russian aircraft, and Ukrainian drones are taking their toll, and that's probably what Putin is begging China to sell him. 636 civilians, according to the UN, have been killed, 1,125 injured in the war, though that's probably off by a factor of 10 in reality. At this point, no one has given an update on suspected Russian casualties, but easily they're over 12,000. So, yes, in fact, in 20 days, the Russians were able to do to quadruple the amount of dead that it required 20 years for the United States in two separate wars in the War on Terror. Meanwhile, the leaders of Poland, Estonia, and the Czech Republic, all NATO nations, are taking a train to a night train to Kyiv or whatever to meet with Zelensky in person. This comes as Volodymyr Zelensky has set a new bar for political leaders in this day and age. As a non-politician who ran for office, this is a guy who decided hoodies don't shave, and so now he's being imitated. So it'll show up here. Spike. The current spike is the spike that was already the spike on the spike. And let's see. I don't care about Ned Price. I don't want to play that again. But Volodymyr Zelensky just spoke to the Canadian Parliament for about 20 to 30 minutes, mainly thanking them for Canada's contribution, all that. But is this going to be the
This is the soundbite that's kind of making the rounds here. He finished up just a few minutes ago, and this is part of what he said to Canadian Parliament.
We want to live, and we want to be victorious. We want to prevail for the sake of life. Can you imagine when you call your friends, your friendly nation, and you ask, please close the sky, close the airspace, please stop the bombing. How many more cruise missiles have to fall on our cities until you make this happen?
Nothing about Canadian football only having 3 downs, or who are they kidding with their Thanksgiving a month before ours? It's not like they
no.
Nothing
I mean,
about.
It still seems to be the hot topic of debate to implement a no-fly zone or not to implement a no-fly zone. Gary Kasparov was on with Anderson Cooper over the weekend.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
is that the Gary Kasparov that retweeted you?
So, yeah, I'm fanboying a little bit today. Thank you for bringing that up. As you know, I am reading Winter is Coming, and I saw this interview happen in real time on Sunday, and I thought no one is posting this anywhere, and it was a dynamite interview. And so I grabbed the video, posted it on Twitter. I tagged Gary Kasparov, and within 1 minute, he retweeted it, and I was sort of on cloud nine. I have no delusions of grandeur. I know I have 7,000 likes because of the substance of the clip, not because of what I did, but it was still cool to be thought of by Garry Kasparov for 0.3 seconds.
That is
today.
Such a chess move by him, isn't it?
He doesn't want a military confrontation because he knows he'll lose, but he believes that NATO will duck, NATO will waffle, NATO will walk away, as they always did. So I wrote the book that you mentioned 7 years ago, and everybody thought I was crazy because even when Putin attacked Republic of Georgia in 2008 or annexed Crimea in 2014, so we heard these voices. Oh, let's be pragmatic, let's be prudent, let's not be over-emotional. And Putin kept winning. And now he's pushing even further, and he's using his last bluff, nuclear blackmail. If it works in Ukraine, why do you think he'll stop using it for Poland or Lithuania? Because
he went on to say that Ukrainians have plenty of courage. They don't have enough weapons. NATO has plenty of weapons, but not enough courage.
Yeah, and he's right. And no one likes hearing that because he's absolutely correct. Here's a former world heavyweight boxing champion / mayor of Kyiv, Vladimir Klitschko, at the scene of a gigantic bomb crater a couple hours ago.
That's what the Russians' war against the civilians look like. Destroyed buildings, destroyed infrastructure. City bus just got hit by the rocket. Lives are getting lost. That's the war that Russia started. That's the city of Kyiv. And many cities in Ukraine were destroyed. Lives were...
So I'll retweet this out, but he seems pretty mad.
Truth.
And he, by the way, he's a large man.
Very
and so
large.
is his brother, a huge fist. And he's at the scene of a destroyed bus. And he was hugely popular in Russia. He and his brother were hugely popular in Russia. That one captured guy 2 weeks ago mentioned that Klitschko was a huge hero of his and all that. And again, for the record, Ivan Drago was a fictional character. That was actually Dolph Lundgren, a Swede, not a Russian boxer. But the Russians loved Klitschko. And so he talks to the camera in English because he still has a house in Vegas, I believe. I'm sure he does. Dolph Lundgren. Where did he go to chemical engineering graduate school, Greg? Then ask yourself, why would I be asking that?
I don't know, but Rocky IV seems more relevant than ever.
Try the Washington State University. Dolph Lundgren went to Wazoo. There you go.
Your alma mater, correct?
Yeah. Klitschko, by the way, I declare Vladimir Klitschko an honorary Coug right there. All right. Well, so tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm going to absorb the rest of this Washington Post article that says that places that didn't lock down had as good or better outcomes for their students. Really, so weird. That more. Everyone have a good day. Greg, thank you very much. Have a good day. And we'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 a.m. on AM 770 KTTH. Trial. So we'll get to that. Well, we're going to take Volodymyr Zelensky's remarks to Congress. He's expected to make the case again for as the legally elected president of Ukraine for a no-fly zone.
Yeah, he just received a standing ovation in an auditorium in Congress. Of course, he's appearing via video right now. Nancy Pelosi just introduced him, and I think he's taking the floor right now.
Yeah, so I believe this will be through translator. So here is Zelensky's address to Congress. Wait, am I taking it?
I can pull it up on my end. Yeah, here we go.
Even thought about it for a second. Just like many other cities and communities in our beautiful country, which found themselves in the worst war since World War II. I have the honor to greet you on behalf of the Ukrainian people, brave and freedom-loving people who for 8 years have been resisting the Russian aggression. Those who give their best sons and daughters to stop this full-scale Russian invasion. Right now, the destiny of our country is being decided. The destiny of our people, whether Ukrainians will be free, whether they will be able to preserve their democracy. Russia has attacked not just us, not just our land, not just our cities. It went on a brutal offensive against our values, basic human values. It threw tanks and planes against our freedom, against our right to live freely in our own country, choosing our own future, against our desire for happiness, against our national dreams, just like the same dreams you have, you Americans, just like anyone else in the United States. I remember your national memorial in Rushmore, the faces of your prominent presidents, those who laid the foundation of the United States of America as it is today, democracy, independence, freedom, and care for everyone, for every person, for everyone who works diligently, who lives honestly, who respects the law. We in Ukraine want the same for our people. All that is normal part of your own life. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, Americans, in your great history, you have pages that would allow you to understand Ukrainians, understand us now, when you need it right now, when we need you right now. Remember Pearl Harbor, terrible morning of December 7, 1941, when your sky was black from the planes attacking you. Just remember it. Remember September the 11th, a terrible day in 2001 when evil tried to turn your cities, independent territories, in battlefields, when innocent people were attacked from air. Yes, just like no one else expected it. You could not stop it. Our country experience the same every day.
Well, I'll tell you what,
now,
President Zelensky is speaking. The words are very important, but I got to say, because this is radio, the failure of the interpreter to have the speech in front of her, rather doing it real time, is making it really, really hard to stick with this.
Well, and I will say just an early takeaway from this, Zelensky is really smart. Whichever country he's speaking to, he tends to invoke imagery and symbols or iconic references of that country. When he spoke to the Canadians, he said, imagine if Toronto were Kyiv. When he spoke to the Brits, he invoked Churchill. And now you have him here at the beginning of this speech talking about Pearl Harbor and Mount Rushmore. Yeah,
and then 9/11 and also, I mean, he's the contrast he's trying to make of, listen, we're the free country, we're the democracy. I mean, and we're being invaded by the bad guy, and that's, this is part of the thing that's going on the far left and far right. Is just there's this sort of not our war, not our issue, the whole thing. And if you want to stand by and watch, Putin indiscriminately using weapons specifically against civilians. The one discriminator he does is he's told his army, it's not like he's Obama with a clipboard saying bomb that apartment building. He simply told his army, use all the power we have to terrorize the civilians and empty out Kyiv. And so if you can make the moral argument that the United States of America shouldn't make moral decisions, then go ahead. I think that's a immoral argument that you're making. But technically, as we all know, Ukraine is not a NATO country. However, the precedent for simply us imposing a no-fly zone, you don't have to go back 50 years or 60 years. You have to go back 2 years. You have to go back 5 years, over Syria. And in this case, where we imposed a no-fly zone over a sovereign country called Syria. In this case, here's a democratically elected guy, and if he says look, I invite NATO to invoke a no-fly zone. Well, then, yeah, I am aware of what that entails. And unlike Nancy Pelosi, in a quote that we'll have here, and her understanding of a layered air defense, but is fascinating, and she cuts right through to the quick. But we'll get to that. I'll dip into this a little bit here. It's expected to be about 20 minutes. It's the Congress assembled. The president is not there. He's watching, obviously, from the White House, but I don't believe Congress invited him, and that is the way it works. That's sort of the protocol. Is we have a foreign leader of equal stature. In other words, a head of state is addressing the Congress.
Yeah, and it's taking place in an auditorium that I didn't know the halls of Congress had within its walls.
It's
like a movie theater.
It's huge, and I'll have to get an explanation of where that is, because I can't, it's remarkable that someone thought that maybe someday it would be needed. And it's remarkable in our superannuated Congress that someone could turn the mute button off and get this thing to hook up. But we'll get to that more. It is AM 770 KTTH. Bryan Suits here. Let's get you to work with our right-way traffic. All right, we're back. President Volodymyr Zelensky is addressing Congress, and he's gotten into the he got the 2-minute standing ovation, 2 or 3 minute standing ovation, and he's invoking America's past and times that we have fought and what we fought for, freedom and independence, and then to defend that freedom, et cetera, and trying to make that connection with the United States Congress. He wants to ask for a no-fly zone. I don't think that's going to happen today. I don't think that Biden's going to announce that today. And some really, really disturbing polling yesterday from Americans who they were asked the same question 2 different ways and gave 2 different answers. So I don't want to get into that because it's too depressing. But let's dip back in and see where he is. I think we're getting to specifics of what he wants here now.
Ukraine, which began on February 24th.
This is through translator, obviously.
It would be fair if it ended in a day, in 24 hours, that evil would be punished immediately. Today, the world does not have such tools. The war of the past have prompted our predecessors to create institutions that should protect us from war. But they, unfortunately, don't work. We see it, you see it, so we need new ones, new institutions, new alliances, and we offer them. We propose to create an association, U24, United for Peace, a union of responsible countries that have the strength and consciousness to stop conflicts immediately, provide all the necessary assistance in 24 hours, if necessary, even weapons, if necessary, sanctions, humanitarian support, political support, finances, everything you need to keep the peace and quickly save the world, to save lives. In addition, such association, such union could provide assistance to those who are experiencing natural disasters, man-made disasters, who fell victims to humanitarian crisis or epidemics. Remember how difficult it was for the world to do the simplest thing, just to give vaccines against COVID to save lives, to prevent new strains. The world spent months, years doing things like that, much faster, to make sure there are no human losses, no victims. Ladies and gentlemen, Americans, if such alliance would exist today, that is U24, we would be able to save thousands of lives in our country. In many countries of the world, those who need peace, those who suffer inhumane destruction. I ask you to watch one video of what the Russian troops did in our country, in our land.
So he's going to roll a video of there's several videos that have been taken by drone of Russian soldiers massacring civilians. And I'm not sure what he's talking about that he's about to play here. Where'd he go?
Yeah, I don't know. I lost the feed there.
Okay, hang on.
I'll
then
see if I can pull
I've
up the television feed. But
yeah, I've got
other nations. Please watch the video.
So now
this was the silence we were hearing.
It's rolling a video. Oh, it's a produced video of Kharkiv, Kyiv, Sumy. It's a video showing that Ukraine is a beautiful, beautiful country. Now the video is showing Ring doorbell and other handheld shots of Russian ordnance hitting civilian apartment buildings, etc.
This is really well produced.
Yeah. Well, and again, background of Zelensky, he wasn't just, some stand-up comic. He was a guy he was kind of the Will Ferrell of Ukraine, who's Will Ferrell, is behind Funny or Die and all that. Zelensky set up his own network, his own media empire, and the whole thing.
Yeah, and the video juxtaposes how beautiful Ukraine was pre-invasion, and now it's showing some of the terror and brutality that Putin has inflicted on various cities.
And it's funny, the Churchill parallel doesn't work perfectly exactly, but I'll tell you where the Churchill parallel right now works very well. Before Churchill spoke to Congress in 1943, he was a great writer, and everybody in Congress had read his writing.
And almost all his remarks were prepared.
Yeah, and he was, so he was a known quantity to Congress, obviously, even before he was prime minister. On September 6th, 1939, he was a known quantity because of his writing. So he was in his way kind of a known media quantity before. Though I don't think anyone in the U.S. Congress knew who Volodymyr Zelensky was up until maybe 3 years ago, or 2 years ago after he was elected.
This video Zelensky is showing is stunningly graphic in showing some of the violence. Showing some of the aftermath of the maternity hospital in Mariupol that the Russians intentionally bombed, showing kids in morgues, in hospitals. And then it ends with "Close the sky over Ukraine." So obviously, he made this video as a shot, as a game winning at the buzzer 3-point shot. He wants U.S. Congress to see that. And
in the end, to sum it up,
now he's in English.
Today, it's not enough to be the leader of the nation. Today it takes to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Peace in your country doesn't depend anymore only on you and your people. It depends on those next to you, on those who are strong. Strong doesn't mean weak. Strong is brave and ready to fight for the life of his citizens and citizens of the world, for human rights, for freedom, for the right to live decently and to die when your time comes, and not when it's wanted by someone else, by your neighbor. Today, the Ukrainian people are defending not only Ukraine, we are fighting for the values of Europe and the world, sacrificing our lives in the name of the future. That's why today the American people are helping not just Ukraine, but Europe and the world to keep the planet alive, to keep justice in history. Now I'm almost 45 years old. Today my age stopped when the hearts of more than 100 children stopped beating. I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the death. And this is my main mission as the leader of my people, great Ukrainians. And as the leader of my nation, I'm addressing the President Biden. You are the leader of the nation, of your great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
That is Volodymyr Zelensky.
Glory to Ukraine.
Wrapping up his speech in the United States Congress and ending with Slava Ukraina, which is Glory to Ukraine. And directly there at the very end, invoking Biden's name, knowing that Biden is watching, and asking for the no-fly zone. Congress now standing up. Long
President Zelensky.
Well, I think
the idiot Joe Scarborough.
A lot of Americans might hear the line, be leader of the world, and think, well, that's not the president's job. He's supposed to lead America. And at the same time, I go back and forth over this notion of, can America really police the world? And I keep asking myself, if not us, then who? Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, China?
Yeah, no, exactly right. I mean, we have to fill the void and be a symbol of freedom and liberty to the masses, and he cannot be isolationist, protectionist, populist nativist.
He waved his hand and stood up and walked away behind his desk.
Zelensky did?
Yeah, they hit the final card. And, you can tell the guy's a good broadcaster because he's letting us break on time. So I like him.
So right before we had to go to traffic, Zelensky wrapped it up.
Yeah, he probably knew. And so as a good broadcaster, he knows, you got to clear out the bottom of the hour. Probably the president is not going to invoke a unilateral American-only or influence NATO to enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine, even though it is not Russia's sovereign airspace. It's that guys who just spoke. By the way, not for nothing, right now the NATO ministers of defense are meeting as we speak at NATO headquarters. So they probably watched this because it affects them what the ask was. But you just heard the ask there at the end, which was close the sky. That was the final super on the video that he did. Just close the sky over Ukraine. So we'll see. We'll get back right after this. The reason I think it's probably not going to happen when we get back, and the president is going to give him the answer here in a couple hour or two, apparently. But that and more. It's Bryan Suits here until 9 because that's the morning show. Producer Greg along for the ride. Let's get you riding to work with our right way traffic.
Time for a new look in your kitchen? Hi, Chad.
AM 770 KTTH. Bryan Suits here, and the about a 20-minute speech by President Zelensky of Ukraine, ending with an appeal to Joe Biden to be the leader of the world and close the sky over Ukraine, as they said at the end of a produced video that they played. Which I'm sure you'll find online, and his Zelensky's social media game, by the way, is really, really good. But here's that real quickly. This is the ask, as they say at the end of the meeting.
And as the leader of my nation, I'm addressing the President Biden. You are the leader of the nation, of your great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace.
So the president will basically answer him in a little bit. I got to say, the fact that the president wasn't in that audience indicates to me what the answer already is going to be. And I mean, for Zelensky, he has to, if the U.S. and NATO have been on the ground for 16, 17 years in Ukraine, and no one has ever promised him or Ukraine NATO membership. But, for the sake of him being a leader, he has to, appeal to the president of the United States.
So you think Biden wasn't there on purpose because the optics would look bad if he's making this direct plea, close the skies, cut to Biden's face.
Yeah, looking right at the camera.
And the answer is no.
Yeah, and then he goes,
not gonna do it.
No. And here's not to relate everything to Moneyball, but here's where they may recreate it in the aggregate. The Johnny Damon of air superiority. And by the way, folks, if you haven't seen Moneyball, please keep up. Come on. It's coming up on 9 years since that movie's been out, right? Anyway, there's a lot of moving parts that the American media is so bad at discovering that and really don't matter. They wouldn't understand it anyway. But one of the moving parts is that there is direct military-to-military assistance going on between the United States and Ukraine. And Biden knows this. Zelensky knows this. Biden knows that Zelensky knows this because they set it up. And so it would be, I got to say, it would be politically unacceptable, I think, right now for American F-22s to be orbiting over Kyiv. However, as a gesture of leverage, back to Putin and saying, we're not even going to announce if these are armed. It's for you to find out. But we are not a threat to your airspace. And so if you even energize your radar from your side of the border, we're going to take that as a hostile gesture. I think he would back down, but I don't think we have a president who would do that. But that being said, the answer is going to be that tremendous amounts of anti-air assets are going to be poured into Ukraine, mainly in the form of shoulder-fired missiles, which if they don't outright shoot the plane down, they at least force it to get up to an altitude where it's ineffective. That is 15,000, 20,000 feet. And it forces the Russians to just admit they're just carpet bombing. So I think the injection of aircraft is a no-go on that one, no matter what. And this is because, again, it was Putin that announced the rules. And this is where I wish all these sanctions had happened a week or a month before Putin invaded, because he's been making the rules all along. And the rule of, I decide what's an act of war, that should be rejected outright. And so the things that are going on behind the scenes, as I've been saying, if you've been watching the live stream lunches, by the way, sorry about the end of the day. I had a weak stream at the end of yesterday.
What happened?
My internet was dipping out.
This is not the first time you've talked about how shoddy your internet is.
I hate this provider. What is it called? I'm not
Get up on that Starlink.
I wish. I know. I'm on the list. It's going to be soon. No, right now there's an American RC-135 rivet-joined electronic intelligence aircraft up there. There is also another Boeing product, the J-Stars, an E-8. And as I've said, I'm not revealing anything. This is just my own feeling, having operated in the NATO environment and knowing how they operate when providing soft aid to a ally in conflict, is that I have no doubt whatsoever that there are Ukrainian army officers on this E-8, Red Eye-6, right now orbiting over Poland. No doubt whatsoever. You'll read about it years from now, maybe months from now. But as we speak, there's Ukrainians with their T in E-8 J-Stars aircraft, which is doing ground surveillance deep inside of Ukraine, looking north of Kyiv, providing the targeting for the Ukrainians. And then the other aircraft providing, the radar knowledge. And so we know this, and we're not saying it. NATO knows this, we're not saying it. Zelensky knows this, and he's not saying it, and it's making it very uncomfortable for Biden. And so what Biden has to do, what he should do, is empty out every warehouse that NATO has in Germany of Stinger missiles.
And in terms of cold, hard cash, Biden yesterday signed a $1.5 trillion spending bill with $14 billion for Ukraine aid, and he's expected to announce $800 more million in security assistance. Yeah,
and now there's other things going on the ground in Ukraine that NATO doesn't want to talk about, and it's sort of the implication is that, and Zelensky knows this, if he says what he knows about who is on the ground in NATO, who is on the ground in Ukraine, then he's ruined it. Because right now the plan is working. At day 21, the Russians are running out of army, and they're bringing in their private contractors who don't want to do this. They would rather be in Syria making $2,000 a month, which is a lot to them. And they don't want to bring Syrians in, but they're about to, and the whole thing. So there's a lot of moving parts that it's taken 3 weeks, but the critical mass of Russian army momentum has been blunted by a couple things. And now, when we come back, you're going to be hearing about the Switchblade, the amazing Switchblade missile when we come back. Well, it's been around for over 10 years, but I'll tell you about the Switchblade and whether it's a game changer or not. And it's American made. We'll talk about this here in just a second. We've had it export controlled, but that'll be for the break. AM 770 KTTH. Bryan Suits here. Let's get you to work with our right-way traffic. Today was way north sound, though, because I saw it as I was making the great Tacoma turn towards the Dome, and I was just thinking about how I want to take out those tanks.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
And that flash! There was lightning everywhere, but here's the thing: I want to take out the tanks. Just simply because I was, as a cavalry scout, it was like the walk-off home run of a cavalry scout. I'm going to take out a tank.
If anybody wants to know how the mind of a producer works, you mentioned lightning, and the first thing I do is type in lightning into Google. And the results I get are lightning basics, severe weather 101.
F-35.
It's exhilarating, folks.
But Nancy wants to take those tanks out. She really did hit the podium 3 times.
Well, for emphasis.
Well, she wants to take out.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
She wants to do it because they're filled with transphobes.
But the problem is, like you pointed out, they weren't tanks in the convoy.
No,
they were trucks with supplies in it.
That disturbs me. That the leader, the Speaker of the House, can't. She's been to the classified briefings, and in that now decimated or more logistical convoy of the 40-mile convoy that they continue to refer to in the mornings on MSNBC. I didn't see one picture where there was a tank. I just saw trucks, and I saw some wheeled vehicles and all that. But you know what? I never let that get in the way of a great podium slapping.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
You better brace yourself or you'll take out your teeth.
One thing I've learned about
Shaky Nancy
observing wars in the age of social media is whenever I want to chime in, like, we should be doing this, I pause and I reflect and I go, Greg, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But my initial impulse also was, oh my gosh, we're seeing all these photos of this long convoy. It's 40 miles long.
Convoy of death.
Bomb it immediately. But I've been reading that there's a lot of chess match kind of going on behind the scenes about why they didn't bomb that initially. And it all involves strategy that we are not privy to here in the Great Northwest.
Well, I mean, thing one, the Ukrainians lacked the resource, the ability to do it. Now they're going to be getting it. But also, if it's parked there, if it's 40 miles away with the beans, the bullets, and the Band-Aids, then the tanks aren't getting refueled. The crews aren't getting fed. The transphobic crews who are probably mask averse and vax deniers. So that's, again...
I'd like to take out those tanks.
The lead tank is always a transphobic, vax-denying Russian, and so
always,
yeah, always, yeah. They always he's always transphobe 6. Transphobe 6 actual is always a Tango. The first tank is transphobe 6 actual. So once she found that out, that turns out the Russians deny your truth, and will not use. They will not use the pronouns that you prefer. That they name all their tanks, all their fighter planes after females, and not transgendered females. They name them after females that were born females and still identify as females. Once she found out that it was an army of sexists, when she perked up for that particular briefing.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
It's just so funny when it's so obvious that it's not in their natural language set.
Oh, right. Yes.
Because she goes with take out, nail, grease, soil.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
So anyway, that's where I'll be tomorrow in a foxhole with my battle buddy, Pelosi. Wait, we don't use first names when you're that close. Pelosi would say, Suits, give me another in-law. And I'd say, sure thing. Pelosi, watch out, get down. There's a tank shooting at us.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
Great idea. Here's an in-law. The directions are right on the side. I'm going to keep my head down. you take out those tanks, and I'll write you up for that Medal of Honor. So
we're already in hour 3, and you haven't let me play my favorite piece of audio of the day.
That was going to be mine, but you know what? You own it.
Okay.
You edited it. You owned it. I mean, I'm going to play the crap out of Pelosi because I edited it.
No, this one's only 8 seconds long, but it's.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
I left the podium slapping because you can actually hear her jewelry jingling.
I want to hear from the mayor of Kyiv. If you aren't affiliated with this guy yet, you need to be.
Vitaly Klitschko was a world heavyweight champion. His older brother, yesterday I said Vladimir. His older brother, Vladimir, was featured in Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 13. I forgot.
Something like that.
But Vitaly, also a huge man with huge hands that would crush your head. But he is a gentleman, a gentle giant, unless stirred by that dwarf judo fighter in Moscow.
And he doesn't mince words. Here he is in downtown Kyiv talking to a reporter, a member of the press, who asked him this.
Putin says he's only targeting military targets.
Bullshit. Sorry. Where is military target? This building is military target.
I just love that.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
And the immediate sorry.
Bullshit. Sorry.
I got it. I'm being filmed here. Sorry.
Because I played that thing as we got off the air yesterday. He posted a thing. He was at the site of a civilian. By the way, folks, everything is targeted. There's no mistakes. There's no collateral damage. I don't even think there's an equivalent in the Russian language for collateral damage. Certainly not in the Kremlin language. If it was hit by a Russian bomber missile, it was the target, and that was a point Klitschko made yesterday. And that's what's funny. I love the reporter has to ask. Wait, play that again.
Putin says he's only targeting military targets.
Bullshit. Sorry.
Okay.
Wait, what did it say? Oh, that was it?
The end? Okay.
Yeah. Bullshit. Sorry. Where is military target? This building is military target.
The deal is, and this is what's so funny about, when you're hearing pundits say, oh, the dynamic of the social media of the modern age, and that you can see the mayor of Kyiv and, and all that. It's called technology. In 1943, the mayor of Kyiv telegrammed to Moscow and said, the Red Army is retaken. We are liberated. We're liberated. We got rid of the Nazis and got the communists back. Klitschko's no dummy. He knew his brand when he was boxing. Zelensky, a brilliant media user. And the deal is, because Morning Joe led with a extended clip of Churchill talking to Congress in 1943, because they keep saying, that Zelensky's Churchillian. Sure, but England was never invaded. The Germans never got to option A, where we invade England, because they won the Battle of Britain, because the RAF defeated the Luftwaffe, so they never did. Churchill never had to deal with a foreign army walking down Buckingham Street.
London Street.
He never did. Zelensky's beyond Churchill. But also, like Churchill, he is a master of his own message, and his message is undeniably, he's not churching it up. He's not being a drama queen here. He's in a bunker because a foreign army is double-digit miles away, not a channel away. And they never really were probably planning on a successful invasion anyway. But what he's doing, as Churchill did, is that by the time Churchill spoke to Congress in 1943, to much acclaim, and after all, we had joined the war because we decided it was we'd had it up to here with this Herr Hitler and that Herr Hirohito.
Well, and Hitler declared war on us.
Oops. Wait, I'm sorry. We're in Italy. I get the top bunk. What? And so the difference, the one great similarity is everybody in Congress had been reading Churchill's letters, his op-eds to the New York Times, in reality since the 30s, when he was saying, I've got bad news for the free world. Something's coming. You're not going to like it. The sooner we face it, the shorter it'll be. Or you can ignore it, act like it's not going to touch you, and it can take, inventing an atom bomb. He didn't write that. But anyway, he was a very well-known figure in America. And obviously, when we joined the war, after the Battle of Britain, after he became prime minister, he was a folk hero in America. And that's why he's a hero to right-thinking people to this. I don't know why he's not a Democratic hero, but he's a Republican hero. And I do know why. It's because he was a colonialist, an imperialist, and, the whole thing. Great, but he knew radio and he knew writing. Great writer. Great writer. But his radio addresses set the standard for using mass media to inspire your population. And Zelensky obviously may have heard of Churchill. And he's doing the same thing. And that's remarkable. That's why the connection this morning, the connection was fine, but it was translated. And until he got to the end. If you didn't hear it, we'll play you the end. At the end, he asks the president to be the president of freedom, the president of peace, and all that. Meanwhile, third in line for the presidency wants to get right down into the trenches.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
Who's with me? We'll be back right after this. Do we have a majority? Okay. Back in a second. It's AM 770 KTTH Bryan Suits here. Let's get you to work with our right-way traffic. Now I'm debating. AM 770 KTTH. Everyone loves the Spielberg remake of West Side Story. We were talking about switchblades last hour. And naturally, that comes around to the original West Side Story. You can text Suits to 800-465-8770 for the podcast. But who cares? You can listen live until 9, and then you can podcast it. But anyway, it's 800-465-8770. I don't know that the remake looked way better, and to their credit, they didn't remake any songs. But, this original one, they had nothing to remake on.
Yeah, exactly right.
They didn't have to recreate the street scenes.
I was more dazzled by how Spielberg created the 1960s on screen and made it look real. Yeah, but it was less about the story and the acting and all that. It was more about, he did some cool tricks there with the streets of New York and how he made it look 60, 70 years old.
And we're talking about it because in all likelihood, the United States is going to approve, have quietly already been shipping the Switchblade anti-stuff loitering missile. It's not a missile. It's a flying UAV. It's got a little pusher prop on it. But so anyway, it's called Switchblade. And then, of course, naturally, because we're completely normal adult men is what we are. Okay, are we normal? We start thinking about musicals. And so,
yeah, of course.
There you
Brian,
go.
I have a question for you based upon your service and your time overseas.
All my time with the Switchblade.
You saw things that the American public didn't know about that was going on in the middle of a war zone, etc. How well do you think the American public is informed about what's really going on the ground and, yes, even behind the scenes during a time of war?
Not.
So exactly right. I mean,
not.
We hear things like, we have $14 billion in spending that we're going to give to Ukraine, another $800 million here. But apart from that, I mean, we kind of just get a bird's eye view.
Yeah. And also, like, the times that we were rocketed or mortared and there was no reporter to see us break into dance. Sure, there we are. This is my video as we're running around clicking our fingers looking for cover. Oh, look, we found a bunker. It's not, I'm making that up. We didn't. That's not actually it. We did that. But if Spielberg remakes my videos, they're not for a couple reasons. And here's a great structural reason. And this is across all channels, Fox, MSNBC, CNBC, whatever. If you're asking a retired 4-star general whose last day on active duty was 15 or 20 years ago, and you're asking that general to explain the NLAW shoulder-fired anti-tank missile that we provided to Ukraine, you're talking to the wrong guy. And I mean, you ask anybody, talk to the people that are closer to that product. I mean, you may as well be talking about Vietnam at that point for a lot of those guys, because they're especially if they're retired 4-stars, they came up in the West Germany Cold War mindset, which didn't fit in the urban Baghdad 2004-2005 mindset. a completely different war, and now you're asking them about what's a far more conventional war, except that they don't understand the lethality of the individual soldier now. This is the great revolution that I've seen since this dance. That was a Gulf War. That's the Gulf War dance. Since the remake of that, the great revolution that I've seen, and I was a medic with a platoon of cavalry scouts in the first Gulf War, was that it took 3 guys in a Humvee or 4 guys in a tracked vehicle to get in a position to fire a tow missile at an Iraqi tank. And you fast forward to 2003, 2004, and the individual had far better missiles in the form of Javelin missiles, which is still not a one-man job, but still much better. Now, in 2022, there's a 10-year-old missile, about 8-year-old missile, called the NLAW, where the guy can fire it and drop the tube. He can designate the tank in the sight, fire it, and turn around and then dance his way to cover.
Well, so many times with modern technology, whether it be smartphones or video game systems, it seems to be obsolete within 1 or 2 years. Do you think the same is true for military weapons in the modern age?
Not the modern age, every age. For every measure, there's a countermeasure. That's just simply what's happened. This, for people who have been paying attention, this started in Syria 10 years ago. The day of the tank in the age of the guy with a long-distance, hard-to-see anti-tank missile what was 10 years ago, and that's where this Swedish company that makes the NLAW, they saw that. And now you're seeing it play out in real time, where the conventional 4-star generals are saying, and by the way, my overconfidence or overbelief in the Russian army, their actual stated modernization of the past 15 years, I was lied to the same that Putin was lied to, that they suck because they still rely on conscripts and the whole thing. And so what you're seeing play out in real time is a army of brave, competent guys fighting for their homes with, and unlike 1941, they don't have sharpened sticks or bolt-action rifles. These Ukrainians are facing tanks with a shoulder-fired, lethal, man-killing, tank-killing missile. And it's remarkable. And this revolution started 21 days ago. On day one, when I was seeing video from an airport that the Russian airborne was supposed to take, they were supposed to have that thing by noon 21 days ago. They failed, and then they didn't bring. They brought men to a tank fight.
Well, and thus
they didn't bring the tank.
The chief of staff for Zelensky says Russia is being more realistic in negotiations.
Yeah, we see this from negotiation process that in the beginning Russians have very overestimated understanding of its own army, and they underestimated Ukraine. And now we see that on the negotiation process that they are more concrete what's going on about this war. They understood how many people they lost in this war, and they understood that Ukrainian army is much stronger than they expected before the war started.
And that your army sucks, and your Air Force is full of the sons of judges and other people like that. Wait till we deploy the M136 Pelosi, anti-tank, shoulder-fired.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
Oh, you'll get your chance, sister. We'll be back right after this, AM 770 KTTH. And when we come back, the fifth and final teen who escaped from the Suquamish Ute detention facility is in the hands of the law again. And then we'll give you an update on the 2 Pierce County deputies, their condition, shot yesterday by a brass-plated dirtbag who succumbed to his wounds at the scene. They were trying to do a high-risk arrest warrant, and the guy decided to take his way out by shooting, and he did. He got his goal. So what I can tell you right now, why? Who cares? There may or may not be delays. We'll see. We'll play for you the English portion. President Volodymyr Zelensky speaking to Congress assembled this morning via remote video, and he utilized a translator for the first 15 minutes. So we bailed out of it early on, and then he wound up with his appeal directly to President Biden in English. We'll get you a portion of that coming up. The president is going to respond and effectively talk about some things that some ways we can directly support the Ukrainian military with with new technology, undoubtedly. But so there's that. The update of the two Pierce County deputies, SWAT deputies who were serving a high-risk arrest warrant.
To interview.
I'm gonna pound the table 3 times with my war buddy Nancy.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
Right? There you go. Well, look out, Putin. AM 770 KTTH, Bryan Suits here. She wants to take. You know who else wants to take out those tanks? And by the way, self-described film buff Greg.
Hit me. What do you got?
Have you not ever seen Kelly's Heroes?
Kelly's Heroes?
Kelly's Heroes.
I have not.
Obscure actors like Clint Eastwood.
Oh, yeah. Who's that?
Donald Sutherland. Don Rickles, Telly Savalas are in it.
1970. That's a tough. I know it's the golden age of cinema and all, but I need to catch up on my 70s cinema.
Yeah, here's the greatest American warrior ever, Donald Sutherland as Oddball.
Some armor.
What are you doing up there?
Aircraft gun.
The hell's that?
His name's Oddball. I got 3 Shermans outside.
Oh, such a good movie.
Okay, what's the tie-in to the reference?
Well, it's Nancy Pelosi wants to take out those tanks.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, she's got 3 Shermans outside. Why don't you get together with Oddball?
I'd like to take out those tanks.
He fills the shells with pink paint. Everyone knows this, Greg. So let's get to the sound. Do you want to do the Biden?
Should we do the Biden?
Well, there's one I think that's a must play, and it's
there's 2. Which one do you want? The one about he has COVID, which he doesn't.
In his defense, there's never been a husband to a vice president.
Right.
So I don't even know exactly what they call Inhofe, the beard, the cover husband for Kamala Harris.
Okay, let's listen to Biden.
There's been a little change in the arrangement of who's on the stage because of the First Lady's husband contracting COVID. But look at this room and what you see. Pardon?
Pardon me, what did I just say?
That's right. She's fine.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
That's not together. The second lady, the first gentleman.
See, he's still wrong because, right? Isn't if
first gentleman,
if the vice president has a husband, isn't he the second gentleman? No, why didn't they work this out before they nominated him?
And then he introduced Jennifer Granholm, and it went like this.
She was a former governor of the state of Michigan. Michigan, wrong. She was a former state. She was a governor.
It was Michigan. He was right the first time.
Why did he say wrong? Who did he correct?
I think he was correcting himself. It was his inner monologue coming out of his mouth.
Michigan, wrong. She was a former state. She was a governor.
So a few senior moments yesterday that we've played on the show this morning. We're in good hands, folks.
He's got some...
The guy's got big-ass weapons.
There you go.
Okay, and then we also have to find an excuse to play the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, went to a New York Rangers game. NHL, New York Rangers. I do not understand why politicians feel like they might be cheered when they go to a sporting event.
Also, why do you feel the need to introduce yourself? Because, someone out there doesn't like you.
Yes.
Whoever you are.
Unless your nation is at war or you just suffered a terrorist attack. Bush was famously cheered when he threw out the first pitch during the World Series.
Well, because he threw a strike, for one thing.
He threw a strike, and it was right after 9/11, right?
It wasn't you ever see that Fauci first pitch?
Oh, painful.
It was a pickoff move.
Tonight, we'd like to salute Governor Kathy Hochul, the first female governor of New York State. Governor Hochul began her career in public service in the Greater Buffalo area, served in Congress, and was twice elected lieutenant governor.
Go read her resume.
Here to drop tonight's ceremonial first puck, a champion of women's rights and leader of the great state of New York.
Not a transphobe.
Please welcome Governor Kathy Hochul.
Wow.
The music, they try to drown out the booze.
Wow.
So awkward. Poor Kathy Hochul. I don't even care about her politics. It's hard to get booze like that.
That's like Trudeau going to a trucker convention or something. Like Trudeau taking a leak at the pilot station somewhere. No, my gosh.
Brutal.
And And I guess the protocol people the advanced people always get there and they say, and then the governor would like it if you mentioned that she's a champion of women's rights. And so at a hockey game, and it's not like a Kraken game. Where,
right.
It's a New York Rangers game, or was it the Isles? Doesn't matter. It's a New York hockey audience. Anyway.
I love that clip. And then cleaning out the audio lockbox here, McConnell saying what we've been saying all week on the air.
I think it's perfectly clear that Vladimir Putin is not the cause of this rampant inflation that began at the beginning of the year, was fed by the $2 trillion so-called rescue package, which produced exactly what Larry Summers predicted, 40-year high inflation. So let there be no confusion about the reason we're in this inflationary spiral.
Correcting the narrative.
I'm going to wrap this chain around your head.
Oh, that wasn't nice. That was uncalled for.
Well, McConnell speaks truth, but the way he says it is not exactly exhilarating.
Yeah, so this is where Zelensky is a 24-hour distraction for I didn't cause that inflation, which was dominating the news yesterday. They're trying to reset reality on things. So
Zelensky spoke right when we came on the air this morning at 6 a.m. If people want to listen to the reaction in real time from you, they should go back, get the podcast this morning. But did you think he struck the right tone? I mean, he didn't break any new ground in terms of what he said as opposed to what he said in Canada and Great Britain necessarily.
Yeah. He when he spoke to Parliament, he invoked Churchill and the Battle of Britain and the whole thing. When this morning and this is where I style-wise, I would not have used a translator over a not great connection because there's like a war on. I would have done it all in English, and I would have kept it tight and bright. I would have kept it 10 minutes, and I would have practiced it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
He finished in English, and the thing is, his English is not so good that it can overcome that bad connection.
Right. I agree with you. That would have been far more effective had he just written it down in English and practiced it in English.
In the NATO.
For the NATO countries.
It was famous. Madeleine Albright tried to appeal to the Serbian people before we bombed the crap out of them in 1999. And she spoke Serbo-Croat, she thought. But nobody, I was there and I watched in real time. Everyone said she should have done this in English.
Well, and Zelensky, what it boiled down to was he was calling on the United States not to abdicate our responsibility of being kind of the symbol of the free world. Our politics have been so bogged down with petty things, gender identity, arguments over CRT, partisan politics, questioning our free and fair elections. Zelensky was basically saying, stop it, the United States. We need you now more than ever on the world stage to be that beacon of hope, to be that shining city on a hill. And
you may have to break some stuff and kill people. And that's kind of the problem is that, this is happening in real time. Our media lacks the language, and so they're covering it as a organic refugee crisis caused by transphobes in T-72s, or something. And when Nancy was briefed that all the Russian tanks are driven by transphobes, she did a 180. And that's why she hit the podium.
I'd like to take out those tanks.
Those transphobes. And so that's kind of the thing that I'm saying is that the majority party lacks the Marshall understanding of there is a day when no one cares about your pronouns. And if you went down the list of whose land Kyiv used to be, I stand on the occupied land of the ancient Rus who took over for the Scythians. You would go on forever before you got to your pronouns. And you're living in a life and death world. You're watching it in real time in social media and on TV. And the guy, the democratically elected guy with all the moral authority of anybody in recorded human history, talks to the world's freest nation, which is, oh, by the way, the world's most powerful nation. And this is what I would have told him to say is, I want Ukraine to be like you someday, only without the pronouns and the occupied land. And I'm never going to get that chance if you don't help us.
It was a call for us to wake up here in America and move away from our inaction, appeasement, and, yes, even decadence to a degree.
And what we've seen over the past 21 days is it really honestly doesn't require one American on the ground in Ukraine that we know of and just a way to take out those tanks. Right, Nance?
I'd like to take out those tanks.
Those tanks on occupied Rus land or whatever. All right. Well, thank you very much. And the live stream lunch is going to be delayed today because I have to meet a client who wants to give us money, which is how we operate here at Not Public Radio. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much, producer Greg, for all the sound. And so anyway, a really your update on Ukraine starts with what's going on right now. A couple hours ago, and I mean, I don't know that these are disconnected. I don't mean to put them together as if there's something afoot on St. Patrick's Day, but the Russian special VIP, the Russian Air Force Special VIP Squadron. This is the equivalent of the Air Force One Squadron in D.C. at Andrews Air Force Base in outside of D.C., where they operate the two Air Force Ones and then the various VIP 767s and all that fly the vice president around and the secretary of state. The Russians have an equivalent of that, and it's everything from their large four-engine Ilyushin 96 to other smaller planes. Well, it looked like an air show. A couple hours ago, there was a mass departure of every plane in that VIP squadron, primarily headed east. And then I didn't see, producer Greg, what you said you tweeted?
There are reports that Sergei Lavrov, who's one of Putin's cronies, was on his
foreign minister.
Yeah,
he's Lurch. He's the big stone-faced Soviet-era guy.
The guy who looks like a Bond villain on TV was halfway to China in a plane and then turned around. They don't know why, but they were tracking the plane. Did Putin call him back, or did China get cold feet and say, don't come here? We also know that Biden is going to be speaking with Xi tomorrow on the phone.
Also, by the way, I don't know why I didn't mention this yesterday, but the emergency NATO meeting next Thursday. I'm not sure you understand what the word emergency means, but the fact that they announced that President Biden will be attending an emergency NATO conference in Europe next Thursday. So it's in 7 days.
One of the things that conservatives have been frustrated about with this administration, Ben Sass has been talking about this in the last 48 hours, is the lack of urgency here. A bunch of people in suits around tables discussing this ad nauseum.
And talking about the what if, and all. This is sort of the sort of Damocles about nuclear weapons, is that there was always this assumption that rational people would be in charge in Beijing, in New Delhi, in Islamabad, and yes, in Moscow. We don't worry about the UK, we don't worry about France, but in a power structure like Putin's Russia, it's even more precarious than the old Soviet Union. And so sitting there taking his bait about every decision. That, well, okay, what if we send one? If Putin says, if you send one more javelin, I'll nuke you, would you really take that seriously? And someone's going to say, well, you have to. Do you really? So if he calls and says, stop, take the Third Amendment out of your Constitution immediately, or I'll nuke you. I mean, that's by the way, that's the greatest argument for not letting Iran have nuclear weapons. He's proving it. Well, a couple hours ago, and this coincides with this diaspora, this immediate evacuation of every VIP plane out of Moscow. And I'm not talking about privately owned jets. I'm talking about the Russian Air Force Squadron that flies these guys around. Russia warned, this is from Reuters. This is an actual news service, by the way. It's not a YouTube guy or whatever. Russia warned the United States on Thursday that Moscow had the might to put the world's preeminent superpower in its place and accused the West of stoking a wild Russophobic plot to tear Russia apart. Dmitry Medvedev, who served as president from 2008 to 2012, is now deputy secretary of Russia's Security Council. And he said the United States had stoked disgusting Russophobia in an attempt to force Russia to its knees. Quote, it will not work. Russia has the might to pull all of our brash enemies in their place. Pardon me, put all of our brash enemies in their place, close quote. So it's that, but besides yesterday's diatribe, we'll get to yesterday's diatribe, but Putin is increasingly, who was the king that goes crazy at the end of the third Lord of the Rings? The guy who goes running off the castle.
I just remember the scene from the movie where he gets a weird look in his eyes and goes nuts.
Yeah. And I mean, never mind fictional characters from a Tolkien, book. You have in the final steps, in the final days of Hitler's life, he was railing about the German people didn't deserve him. They can't fight. This will be a cleansing and all that. Well, you know who said that about 8 hours ago? Is Vladimir Putin, that he wants a self-cleaning, a self-purging of the Russian people.
He wants to go after traitors, and he's going to spit them out like flies.
And this is what you say when you realize that everybody wearing a uniform all around you have been lying to you for 22 years. He's increasingly, and what's really crazy about this is he's not using his inside voice. He's saying the quiet part out loud into a microphone. He's not trying to even act like, hey, I'm wearing a suit and tie. I shake hands. I laugh at stuff. I do judo. I ride a horse bare chested. What's not to like? He's not even doing that now. He's now in apparently this really irrational space. And I mean, if that's what's funny is what we know about planes leaving communist capitals is that either a coup just failed or one's underway. There's a famous air crash there was an attempted coup in China, I want to say 1970 or 71. Very high-ranking, legendary, prominent Chinese People's Volunteer Army, Chinese Revolution military leader. Got his family all together. They got on a plane and were headed to Russia. The plane turned around and had a structural accident in Russia, by the way. Had the accident in Russia. Mao called Moscow, and he said, shoot that plane down. I owe you if you do it. At the time, they were almost at war. Russia and China were nearly at war. There was a near coup. There was an attempted coup. The Russians did Mao a favor, shot the plane down. And anyway, I can't help but be reminded of incidents like that when I see every plane in the special VIP squadron in the Russian Air Force flee Moscow 2 or 3 hours ago, and the one with Lavrov gets turned around. So he might have a brick wall waiting for him. We don't know. Back in a second, it is AM 770 KTTH. You're not Irish. And so anyway, the Taysach last night, they were at some reception because Biden loves doing that. And so he when Obama was president, when when Barack Obama from Ireland and the famed Obama clan, whenever the Taysach came, Biden took him around and liked to Irish it up and the whole thing. And there's a hilarious song. And my friend Tim played it on his radio show last night. And so I texted him. I said, I'm not stealing from you. I just forgot about this song. Great song from an actual Irish singer named Robbie O'Connell.
When first I came to the USA with my guitar in hand, I was told that I could get a job singing songs from Ireland. So I headed up to Boston, I was sure it would be alright. But the very first night I got on the stage, I was in for a big surprise. They said, you're not Irish, you can't be Irish, you don't know Danny Boy, or Tooralooraloora, or even Irish eyes. You've got the hell of a nerve to say you came from Ireland. So cut out all the nonsense and sing McNamara's band.
Anyway, see, you get the point. That none of those are Irish in Ireland. None of those are Irish songs. But then again, that's the thing. Is St. Patrick's Day is an American invention.
I was going to say, I know it's shameful, but I still don't really know the origins of St. Patrick's Day.
There was a guy named Patrick.
He came out with his magic wand, and then he
saw
held
his
it up
shadow
in the sky.
And he chased all the snakes out of Ireland.
And it said there was 3 more weeks of
snakes.
Irish Day?
Yeah, no snakes. And so 3 weeks later, all the snakes left. So obviously you should be sainted. And it's an American. There is an Irish saint named St. Patrick. You know, and,
I did know that.
And
he was a Christian.
Yeah, he's a Christian saint.
Take notes.
And there were snakes. But it's kind of like Cinco de Mayo.
Well, and also...
in Cinco de Mayo, you know what Cinco de Mayo is in Mexico? It's the 5th of May.
And stereotyping the Irish is sort of like the last acceptable prejudice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no one will cancel you if you point out that the Irish are
they're leprechauns,
lazy, thieving drunks.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't understand it. Some cultures we can sort of have a good time with, imitate their accents, wear the hats, say that they're all leprechauns, and then others are untouchable. They're sacred cows.
There's a